The honourable member has about 15-20 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to my honourable colleague for the great question. Absolutely, we need to get to the bottom of how much has been collected so far through the counter-terror measures and make sure that those that have been collected are getting to the businesses and to those families who've been most impacted by these tariffs that have been put on. It's time we had accountability, and the best way to get that is to have a budget that's tabled in this House.
Déclaration de députés, statements by members. The honourable member for Tayayakan, Parkdale, Hyde Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Exactly 100 years ago, less a day, 468 Presbyterians, Methodists, and Congregationalists in West Toronto put aside their differences to worship together for the first time. They gathered at a church at 432 Runnymede Road, a church they had just disassembled together and reassembled 6 blocks away. They were part of a national movement sweeping farming communities, small towns, and cities across Canada. Scarred by war, motivated by their faith and their belief in justice, these believers put aside their differences to create the United Church of Canada. This weekend, I had the honour of joining members of Runnymede United Church, still at 432 Runnymede Road, for their 100th anniversary celebration. Thanks to Centennial Committee Chair David Ambrose and all of those who put on and attended the celebration. The community at Runnymede United is active, reconciling with its past, and reaching beyond its community to its neighbours and the world beyond. It's a spirit we see throughout the riding of Tayayakan, Parkdale, High Park. And at a time when so many are doom-scrolling, retreating, or dividing, it's one that I commend to this House.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the residents of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, and Mission for re-electing me to a 3rd term in the House of Commons and previously twice to the BC Legislature. It's an honour that I take seriously. This has always been a competitive riding, and while this election was no different, support for our message grew significantly. 12,000 more votes locally than in previous elections. I saw a shift, particularly among blue-collar workers and young Canadians struggling with affordability. I spoke with thousands of constituents and asked a simple question. Are things better off after 10 years of Liberal rule? Not one person said yes, and that says a lot. The Liberals won, not by their own sorry record, but by copying Conservative policies like the carbon tax and capitalizing on Trump. Still they won, but make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives like MPs like me will keep fighting every day for a safer, stronger, more...
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Hull-Elmer.
Last night, the National Holocaust Monument was vandalized. Are there no limits? The monument not only commemorates the 6 million murdered Jewish women, men, and children, but the millions of other victims of Nazism and their collaborators during the Second World War. More than that, the National Holocaust Monument is a statement for today. It is an ever-living declaration by right-minded people for tolerance, for understanding, for respect for all peoples. To that depraved soul who defaced the monument, give your head a shake. Reconnect with your humanity. Appreciate our common history. And rejoin the better angels of our natures to build a better world so that we never again need to erect another Holocaust monument. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kildonan, St. Paul.
It has been 18 months since the tragic disappearance of Earl Moberg, a beloved husband, father, and grandfather from my community. Mr. Moberg suffered from dementia, and despite exhaustive search efforts, he has not been found and is presumed deceased. Unfortunately, by 2030, nearly 1 million people will be living with Alzheimer's in Canada, and nearly 60% will go missing at some point. Tragically, if they are not found within 12 hours, there is a 50% chance they will be injured or deceased from hypothermia, dehydration, or drowning. This really underlines the urgency of finding our loved ones as quickly as possible. That is why there's an urgent need for a national silver alert system. Like the Amber Alert system for children, it would rapidly notify the public when a senior with cognitive impairments goes missing in the area. To that effect, I've sponsored petition E5196, launched by the Moberg family, urging the federal government to work with provinces and police to implement a national silver alert system to save lives by helping locate missing seniors faster. We must act now to protect our most vulnerable and prevent future tragedies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate the Trois-Rivières Lions on their historic victory this Saturday, defeating the Toledo Walleye to win the Kelly Cup in the ECHL finals. The Lions are the only Canadian team in this professional hockey league. And it was their first time participating in the Kelly Cup. Trois-Rivières has delivered the goods recently. Congratulations to the team and their coach, and on the player who won the MVP. And this whole city is proud of them today.
Oilers in their match this evening. Canada is behind you. Merci, monsieur.
The honourable member for New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Stop in, Mr. Speaker. There's something special about life in a Canadian small town, especially in New Tecumseh, Gwillimbury. These are places shaped by open fields, quiet roads, and a strong sense of community. People look out for one another, show up for local events, and take pride in the place they call home. That spirit is what Canada is all about. On July 1st, we'll kick things off with my annual Canada Day barbecue from 11:30 to 1:30. Join us at Riverdale Park in Alliston. We'll have free burgers, ice cream, live music as we celebrate Confederation together. And the fun won't stop there. August brings Carrot Fest in Bradford, part of the 100th anniversary of the Holland Marsh and Potato Fest in Alliston. It's not just about the vegetables. These festivals dedicated to hometown staples celebrate who we are. We'll see you in the Soup and Salad Bowl of Canada, Mr. Speaker. It's going to be unbelievable.
The honourable member for Markham Scofield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a tremendous honour to rise again in this House as the Member of Parliament for Markham Stouffville. Thank you to my wonderful campaign team and to the people of Markham Stouffville for the privilege of serving you. Markham Stouffville is an extraordinary place due to the contributions of countless exceptional individuals who I recognised earlier this year with the King's Coronation Medals. Congratulations to Mark Atikian, Alan Bell, Lena Vigioni, Shawan Chen, Mike Clare, Glenn Crosby, Wayne Emerson, Margaret Grandison, Ray McNeese, Jack Heath, Sivan Elenko, Fareen Karachi-Wala, Emily Lamb, Madge Logan, Ian Lovett, Joanne Marr, Joan Masterton, Haresh Mehta, Ignacio Mogado, Marlene Mogado, Najmul Siddiqui, Bill Snowball, Susan Tucker, Rui Yang, John Webster, Tucker Wheatley. Congratulations to you all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
If you're traveling this summer and find yourself on Highway 416 near the town of Kemptville, be sure to visit the Kemptville Brewing Company. I had the privilege of joining their grand opening on June the 3rd alongside outstanding entrepreneurs Nathan DeVries, Curtis DeVries, Braden Duclos, and Jocelyn Major. Their passion and dedication have brought something truly special to our community. Set in the beautiful North Grenville countryside, Kemptville Brewing Company is already becoming a local favorite. Now, if you're keen to sample small batch craft brews or enjoy delicious comfort food, now my go-tos are a can of Caddy's Choice and a wood-fired pizza, or you can experience live music and trivia nights. It's the perfect way to unwind and enjoy the vibes of our region. This summer, make a point to visit. Bring friends, meet new faces, and support this fantastic addition to Kemptville. It's more than a place to grab a drink. It's a destination that's worth the stop.
The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to share my pride in the awards won by the City of Mirabel and the Mayor of Saint-Marthe-sur-le-Lac at the 2025 Congress of the Quebec Union of Municipalities. First, the Municipal Ovation Award in the Climate Future category for the ingenuity and creativity behind efforts to reduce the environmental footprint of the Belle-Rivière Regional Educational Forest Park. Congratulations to the entire City Council, Mayor Patrick Charbonneau, Stéphane Michaud, and Jacques Belrose. I'd also like to congratulate my friend Francine Charles, Councillor for Ward 6, on receiving the Francine Ruel-Jutras Award, recognizing women who excel in municipal politics. Francine, this award highlights what we already knew, your vision and the quality of your commitment to your community. Finally, a big shout out to my friend François Robillard, Mayor of Saint-Marthe-sur-le-Lac, who was honored for his 20 years in municipal politics. My friends, you can certainly be proud. Hats off for your dedication. And above all, let's hear it for civic engagement.
Honourable member for Avalon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to deliver my first member statement as the Member of Parliament for Avalon. I am deeply humbled by the responsibility entrusted to me. I want to take a moment to thank those who made this happen. To my family, your strength and love and support through this journey means more than words can express. To my friends, many of whom never imagined themselves knocking on doors or making calls during a federal campaign, though you're stepping up and believing in me, thank you very much. To my incredible team of volunteers, through rain, wind, and even snow, your dedication never wavered. You inspired me every day. And most importantly, to the voters of Avalon, thank you for your trust. Thank you for choosing me to be your voice. I do not take this responsibility lightly, and I will work every day to be worthy of the honor you have given me. Thank you.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister campaigned as the man with the plan, but so far he's still following Justin Trudeau's plan. So let's take a look at the results. Canada is staring down the barrel of a recession and the potential loss of 100,000 jobs. Unemployment is now at 7%, the highest in nearly a decade outside of COVID. There's been effectively no job growth since January. Over 1.6 million Canadians are now unemployed and on average are spending 22 weeks, nearly half a year, without a job. 1 in 5 young people can't find work. Food banks are seeing record numbers. Missed mortgage payments are up. Grocery prices are skyrocketing. And according to the 2025 Canada Food Price Report, the average family of 4 will spend an extra $800 on groceries this year. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are working harder than ever and yet falling further and further behind. That's why this House voted for the government to present a budget this spring. It's time the Prime Minister reels in his reckless spending so Canadians can finally catch a break.
The honourable member for Canada.
Speaker, this week marks Ottawa Innovation Week, a celebration of brilliant minds, bold ideas, and cutting-edge technology shaping Canada's capital city. Ottawa is home to the highest concentration of tech talent in North America, with over 13% of our workforce in the tech sector. Our innovation ecosystem includes more than 65 federal research labs and world-class institutions like Area X.0. My riding of Canada is home to Canada's largest technology park, with over 500 companies and more than 30,000 people working there each and every day. Leaders like Canaxis, Solis, Renovis, and Solink are not only growing our economy, they're transforming global industries. Mr. Speaker, I invite all members of this House to join me in celebrating Ottawa's innovators and entrepreneurs this week. Their work is powering not just our local economy, but shaping the future.
The honourable member for Flamborough-Glanbrook, Brant North.
Mr. Speaker, after the lost Liberal decade, the dream of home ownership continues to be a nightmare. A new study ranks Toronto as the least affordable housing markets in the world. Construction costs are up 58%, and zoning delays mean it takes up to 32 months to approve a single project in Toronto. No wonder Canada is short 2 million homes. Housing costs will average 52% of household income this year, according to a new federal memo, and that's up from 38% in 2015. And I've heard from far too many families in the GTHA that now teeter on the brink because their monthly payments are up thousands. And for young Canadians who have yet to enter the market, they've simply given up. Even the new housing minister admits it's a crisis, but says it's a slow-moving creature. After 5 housing ministers in 6 years, Canadians can't wait any longer.
The honourable member for Bourassa. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last weekend in Bourassa and across the country, we celebrated Neighbors' Day, a great time to strengthen ties, share a smile, and build more supportive communities. But Bourassa is also buzzing with excitement over the NBA Finals. 2 players from Montreal, from Canada, from Quebec will be facing off in the NBA Finals. One of the winners will bring the cup back to the riding of Bourassa and make Montrealers, Quebecers, and Canadians proud, particularly residents of Bourassa. There will be 2 giant screens so that people can view the playoff, the game at Pilon Park, and we will have the cup back here in Montreal.
For Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives are calling on the Prime Minister to table a budget as soon as possible. The Prime Minister platformed on making groceries more affordable for Canadians, yet they will spend $800 more on food this year. Food prices continue to rise, and I'm only referring to essentials such as beef, chicken, apples, white rice, and infant formula. The Prime Minister's first spending bill, the main estimates, is increasing government spending by 8%, and this House has been clear that the Liberal deficit spending is driving this inflation. Inflation hurts us all. Hardworking Canadians are visiting food banks at record levels. Last year, Food Banks Canada reported an unprecedented level of 2 million visits in March alone. With no budget coming until this fall, Liberals will go over 1 year without a fiscal plan. Single moms, families, and small businesses can't maintain proper finances without a budget. What makes this government think it can do differently?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday I was proud to mark International Trails Day in Morel, Prince Edward Island, which was one of 13 communities across the country where Trans-Canada Trail supported events to celebrate and give back to the trail. In Morel, we rolled up our sleeves and we planted trees alongside with neighbors and volunteers, contributing to a greener, more resilient trail for future generations. It's a powerful feeling to know that at the same time, Canadians across our great nation were also coming together to care for this incredible national resource. The Trans-Canada Trail links thousands of communities across the country, including PEI, where it follows the Confederation Trail and draws countless islanders and visitors each year to walk, cycle, and ski through our beautiful landscape. This trail plays such an important role in our economies and our tourism development. Thank you to Trans-Canada Trail, the town of Morel, and all the volunteers who made this celebration a success, and who remind us of the power of trails to connect people to nature and each other. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
Today, Conservatives have tabled a motion in this House that the Liberal government finally put forward a fiscally responsible budget. This Prime Minister says that he wants to be held to account based on what Canadians are paying for their groceries. But instead of putting forward a budget or bringing down grocery prices, he's introduced $500 billion in what we can only assume is more inflationary spending, with Canadians expected to pay an additional $800 in groceries this year over what they paid last year. Our ask is very simple for this Liberal government after 10 years of their inflationary spending.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, there will be a budget in the fall of this year, but you know what's a bit rich for Canadians watching at home is to see these Conservatives who have consistently, at every step of the way, voted against affordability measure. Mr. Speaker, they voted against childcare. They voted against pharmacare. They voted against the dental program we have in Canada. Mr. Speaker, how can you stand up in this House seriously and criticize this government where at every step of the way you fail Canadians to have their back in times of needs?
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
Conservatives have consistently voted against all of the inflationary spending and their half measures that would see those savings vaporized by their continued inflationary spending, and will keep voting against it unless we see a responsible budget from this government for once. Moms and dads, small businesses, single Canadian seniors, they all have to table a budget. They have to live by a budget. So why is it that these Liberals, while food prices are going through the roof and moms are having to water down the milk that they give to their babies, these Liberals won't just table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that when we have a choice, we will always side with them, Mr. Speaker. We have sided with children in this country to make sure that it would have a national food program. We have sided with our seniors to make sure there would be a dental program in this country. We have sided with young families, Mr. Speaker, to make sure there will be childcare. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will always side on the side of Canadians, whether they're young, whether they're seniors, whether they're workers. Canadians, we have their back. That's what we said. That's what we'll do, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
Well, food prices up has replaced elbows up at grocery stores lately as food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. It's so bad now that even sale items are too expensive for Canadian families, and you'll be lucky, Mr. Speaker, if you walk out of a grocery store with 2 bags for less than $80. Inflationary spending must be reversed so Canadians can afford to put food on the table. Will the Liberals present a budget to show that they are at least trying to bring food prices down?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this new government is a government of action, and this is what action looks like. We're rapidly advancing legislation to cut tax for 22 million people, cut the tax on first home purchases, and permanently cut the consumer carbon tax. I hope, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives will cut the rhetoric and join us in advancing this legislation. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
Well, the Prime Minister said that he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store, so let's do that. Food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. Canadian families will pay $800 more on food this year than last year. So there goes their tax cut. That's about $17,000 on food alone this year. Families, single moms, and seniors are at a breaking point, and this can't go on. Do the Liberals not see that their inflationary spending is doing to families, or do they just not care? Why won't the Prime Minister table a budget and show the true cost of his inflationary deficits and debts?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at some economic facts. Inflation is down from 8.1 to 1.7% over the last 2 years. Workforce participation is 65.3% compared to the U.S. at 62.5%. We have a AAA credit rating from Moody's. Mr. Speaker, the fundamentals of our economy are strong, and we're going to continue to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Lotbinière. Today, the Liberals are going to have to choose between continuing to make Canadians hungry or voting for our motion to table a budget this spring. Groceries cost a fortune. Food banks are having a hard time keeping up, and they're saying there's a social emergency. All of this because of the inflationist policies of this Liberal government and this Prime Minister. And it's Sylvain Charlebois, not me, who's saying that a major part of inflation in Canada's grocery stores is caused by government policies. Will the Prime Minister table a budget this spring and end, once and for all, Liberal food inflation? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have already made their choice, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we are in power, because they know that a Liberal government is a government that is going to be there for families. It's a government that will be there for kids. It's a government that is going to be there for our seniors, Mr. Speaker. And what's really strange today for people who are watching at home is that at every opportunity that the Conservatives have had to make a choice, they have always voted against measures to help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we won't take any lessons from the Conservatives on this. We'll continue to fight for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, Lotbinière. Well, the Prime Minister himself said that he wants to be held responsible for what Canadians pay at the grocery store. He said that, and he and his government are responsible for the second worst food inflation prices in the G7. Since he's become Prime Minister, the cost of groceries has gone up by $800 per family. That's worse than under Justin Trudeau. Imagine. He's increase spending by 8% without a budget. He promised to keep it at 2%. Will he present a budget this spring, yes or no? Or will he continue to be as irresponsible as his predecessor? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, the responsible thing to do is exactly what we've done, which is to cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That was the responsible thing to do. The responsible thing to do is to make sure that Canadians have more money in their pockets, Mr. Speaker. That's one of the best affordability measures there is. On this side of the House, we are going to continue to fight for families. We're going to continue to fight for kids, continue to fight for seniors. Together, Mr. Speaker, we can build a Canada strong. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the measures to break down trade barriers in Bill C5 look like they're moving forward, but the Liberals have also included in C5 measures that would impose gas and oil pipelines on Quebecers. The Bloc Québécois is ready to work with the government on interprovincial trade, but this is a game that has to be played between two parties. If the Liberals want to collaborate, we can do that, but if they want to impose pipeline projects, there's going to be a problem. Will they split Bill C5?
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, everyone in this House agrees on one important issue, and that is that today we are at a critical moment for Canada. We are facing a tariff threat from the United States, and in this critical time, all members in this House need to work together to build one Canadian economy, to create the strongest economy in the G7. We need free trade across Canada. We need to build big projects. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the second part of C5, the Building Canada Act, could also be called an act to destroy the planet. Ottawa is giving itself the right to approve fossil energy projects through decree without environmental assessments or consultations. Ottawa can decide on its own. It says that it'll, quote-unquote, consult Quebec provinces and Indigenous people by putting a fait accompli in front of them. Will the Liberals realize that this is a step backwards for the environment and when it comes to respect for democracy? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, C5 is an answer to an economic crisis, a crisis that has been provoked by our southern neighbours. It's a trade crisis, and here is the answer. We have the answer. We got a mandate from Canadians to fight this tariff war, to create opportunity in Canada, and to do everything that we can to help our economy and to protect jobs in Quebec, including forestry, aluminum, steel, and other jobs in Quebec. That's our answer to the economic crisis. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, 6 weeks after the election, let's look at the Liberals' environmental record. They got rid of the consumer carbon tax. They authorized offshore oil exploration in Newfoundland. The Toronto Star has revealed that they're looking at getting rid of the emissions cap for oil and gas. And with Bill C5, they want fossil energy projects to be able to move forward without environmental assessments. According to Ecojustice, no law has ever given more power to the government in the entire history of modern environmental law. So at the end of the day, what's the difference between the Liberals and Pierre Poilievre? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Well, there's a huge difference between a Liberal government and a Pierre Poilievre government. We think that we need to protect the environment, and we are working on that every single day. We are working to make sure that we have clean energy, and we will continue to do our homework to make sure that we can build Canada strong while protecting the environment.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, the cost of groceries and food prices continue to skyrocket. This year alone, the cost of apples is up 19%. Beef strip loin is up 34%. White rice is up 14%, and infant formula is up 9%. We know this Liberal government's deficit spending drives inflation and leads to higher prices at the grocery store. Will the minority Liberal government table a budget that reverses this inflationary spending so Canadians can afford to put food on their table.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, child poverty is down 38% since 2015, and overall 26% in the general population 18 to 65, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, the party opposite could help by not voting against things that make it better for Canadians, like things like the Canada Child Benefit or dental care or the school food program or supports for apprentices. Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, the Conservative Party stands in the way of families.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he wants to be held accountable for what Canadians pay at the grocery store. This year, Canadians are spending $800 more on groceries, and the Barrie Food Bank is now supporting upwards of 7,000 people per month, 37% of which are children. Instead of offering relief and a real fiscal plan, this Prime Minister is spending $500 billion without telling Canadians where the revenue is coming from. When will this Prime Minister table a budget that fights inflation so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of support that Canadians are asking for. And that's why they elected us, Mr. Speaker, because they know that when things are difficult for Canadians, that they can count on the Liberal government to be there for them, whether it's to help raise healthy children, make sure their kids get a good breakfast in the morning, or make sure that they too can afford childcare so that they can continue to grow and earn great livings across this country. Mr. Speaker, we'll be there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Ponoka-Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, it's official. This new Liberal Prime Minister refuses to present a spring budget, even though Canadians have been without one for over a year. But in that time, students have had budgets, families have budgets, small businesses have budgets, towns and cities have budgets, provinces and territories all have budgets, banks have budgets. Pretty sure Brookfield's got a budget. So why doesn't this government have a budget? The last guy thought that budgets balance themselves. Does the new guy think that budgets just draft and table themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
And Mr. Speaker, he failed to mention one, and Canada will have a budget in the fall, Mr. Speaker, of this year. That's one thing that he forgot to mention to Canadian. But you know what is responsible to do, Mr. Speaker, is the first thing we did when we came to this House was to lower tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's something that they failed to mention. That's the type of thing that Canadians at home are watching, and they know with our motion and them voting for the bill, Mr. Speaker, by July 1st, their tax will come down. That's what Canadians expect. That's what we deliver.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Field, BC and the Rockies to the ranch lands of Kamloops tell me that family budgets are being destroyed by Liberal inflationary spending. The Prime Minister wants to be held to account by what Canadians pay at the grocery store. Today we're debating our Conservative motion calling for a budget as soon as possible. Will this Liberal government table a budget and reverse their inflationary spending so that Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
The Honourable Secretary of State?
For seniors.
Seniors, that's what I figured. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise in this House for the first time as the member for Esquimalt Saanich Sioux. Mr. Speaker, this government is doing important work to ensure that we are protecting vulnerable Canadians, including vulnerable seniors, and that's why we continue to stand up for seniors. We're restoring eligibility to age 65 with the Old Age Security Program, and this is an important step to defend vulnerable seniors from falling into poverty. This policy also helps to protect low-income seniors who depend heavily on OAS and GIS.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
After the lost Liberal decade by Justin Trudeau and company, our military is gutted and Canada has been left weaker, poorer, and defenseless. For 10 years, these Liberals failed to take our national defence and security seriously, instead relying on our allies to defend Canada's sovereignty. The Canadian Armed Forces is facing a devastating recruitment crisis and does not have enough soldiers, sailors, and aircrew. And only half of our military equipment is serviceable. Why should Canadians believe this Prime Minister will fix what his Liberals have already broken?
The Honourable Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, today is a good day for Canada. This morning, the Prime Minister announced a $9.3 billion investment in Canada's defence, which means we will achieve NATO's 2% target this fiscal year. This is the largest investment in defence since the end of the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you on this side of the House, we're thankful to those who served, past and present.
Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, nobody believes them. After 10 years of these Liberals, our warships are rusting out, our fighter jets are worn out, and our troops are burnt out. Today, the Canadian Armed Forces is short 13,000 troops due to those Liberals' recruitment and retention crisis. An additional 10,000 personnel are undertrained and undeployable. Over the past decade, the Liberals lapsed $12 billion in defence spending and cut $2.7 billion over the last year from the military. Why would our troops leave anything this Liberal government says, since the Liberals are responsible for breaking our military?
The Honourable Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, today is a great day for Canada, for our allies and our partners around the world are watching. I find it surprising that the Conservatives want to talk about supporting and equipping forces when they're the ones who cut Canada's defence spending to below 1%. On this side of the House, Canada's new government is investing now to re-equip, rebuild, and bolster our armed forces and our defence industrial capacity. We will ensure Canada remains strong, sovereign, and secure.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of these Liberals, our fighter jets are worn out, our warships are rusting, our troops are exhausted, we're missing 13,000 troops. Recruitment and morale has never been lower. Over the last Liberal decades, the Liberals cut $12 billion in defence spending and cut the budget. Our forces have been abandoned. Mr. Speaker, how can a government who is responsible for this fiasco claim to be unaware of this fiasco and claim to fix it?
Industry.
The Honourable Minister of Industry. The Canadian Armed Forces were abandoned by the Conservatives, but certainly not by this government. Today we are announcing investments that are historic for our defence. We will build ships in Canada, planes in Canada. We'll be creating jobs here in Canada. We'll be creating jobs in Quebec and across the country, and we will protect our sovereignty.
L'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, Ottawa has just announced $9 billion in new defence spending for this year. In the current global context, the Bloc Québécois agrees that we need to invest in defence. But that's $9 billion more. Thank you. Could applaud as well. That's $9 billion more that the Liberals are asking us to approve blindly without a budget or even an economic update. Nobody will know how this money is going to be financed, nor how big the deficit is going to be when we're expected to vote on these measures. Can the Liberals finally be responsible enough to show us what the books look like? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to say that I'm very happy that the Bloc Québécois is in agreement with our plan to rearm the Canadian Armed Forces, that they agree with the historic investments today, that they agree that we should meet our NATO commitment of 2%, this extra spending that's necessary to defend Canada's sovereignty and protect Canada. I thank the Bloc for agreeing with this ambitious plan for the country. And I would also like to note that on the weekend, we were at the Davie Shipyards, which celebrated its 200th anniversary, which is contributing to Canada's sovereignty by building excellent warships here in Quebec. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the $9 billion in defense spending announced today adds to $26 billion over 5 years in tax cuts. You can add $4 billion for the GST exemption for new homes. That's on top of $38 billion in the main estimates. And that's all of that together more than the entire healthcare system budget for Quebec. The Liberals are asking us to support all this without putting forward a budget. Mr. Speaker, it's completely irresponsible. Why is the government doing everything it can to hide the real state of public finances? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I think that all the colleagues here in this House of Commons saw a historic minute just a few years ago. We heard that the Bloc Québécois wants to build a strong Canada. It's a historic moment for all parliamentarians. We agree with the Bloc because we've made a generational investment in our defence, Mr. Speaker. A major investment in our industry, as the Minister of Industry just said. It's a major investment in our workers. It's employees at Bombardier, at Davy, elsewhere, who are thrilled because Canada is investing in its sovereignty and in its industrial base.
Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Liberals are hiding the state of Canada's finances from Canadians. The so-called brilliant banker who said his strength was planning isn't planning on actually producing a budget for Canadians. Meanwhile, 1 million Ontarians used a food bank last year, a terrible new record, and unemployment in the GTA has now surged to almost 9%. Guess what? No budget. How bad are the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner isn't planning to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, we increased CCB, we delivered $10 a day daycare, we put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage was increased, dental care, pharmacare. All of these programs have reduced child poverty by 38% since 2015, seniors poverty down by 30% since 2015. All these things the Conservatives have voted against.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
We voted against all the policies that led to 1 million Ontarians using a food bank. They should all be ashamed of themselves that that's their performance. Meanwhile, TD Bank has now said up to 100,000 Canadians will lose their job this year. And guess what? They refuse to produce a budget. 20% bankruptcies in Canada have surged 20%. Guess what? They're not going to produce a budget. I ask again, what is so terrible about the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner is refusing to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to talk about this list again because I think it's so important. We increased the CCB, delivered $10 daycare, put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage has been increased, dental care, pharmacare. All these programs have reduced poverty in all age groups. These are the things that Conservatives voted against.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Well, that's a record stuck on skip, Mr. Speaker. But Canadians are now facing the consequences of this Liberal government's economic drift. Oxford Economics says that Canada is heading into a recession with 200,000 more job losses and unemployment reaching 7.7% this year. Full-time workers are turning to food banks in record numbers, and mortgage defaults are rising. Meanwhile, the Liberal government wants to spend a record $500 billion with no plan. Will the Prime Minister show some accountability to the Canadians who are going to be losing their jobs and do his job and table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of relief that Canadians are looking for, on top of all the programs and supports for Canadians, whether they have children, whether they're seniors in low income. We expect then, with all of this concern, that we'll see support from the Conservative Party and things like our One Canadian Economy Bill, Mr. Speaker, which is going to even further enhance opportunities for Canadians to have well-paying jobs all across the country.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to remind the Prime Minister that he leads a minority government and that the majority of elected members of the House of Commons voted in favour of tabling a budget this spring. This morning, I was present for the Conservative motion, but there's been no response. I'll try my luck here. Two simple yes or no questions. 1. Does the Prime Minister respect this institution that is the House of Commons? And 2, will he respect the will of the majority of elected members and table the budget? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, 2 answers. Yes, we do respect the House of Commons, and yes, there will be a budget tabled in the fall of 2025, Mr. Speaker. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we're working for Canadians. I know that we have new colleagues in the House, including him, but no doubt he's heard the great news for people in his riding that there will be a 22 million Canadian tax cut. And I'm sure that he'll call people in his riding so that they can all celebrate a great moment for Canadian taxpayers. The Honourable Member for Richmond, Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his answer, but the answer was wrong. He said there'd be a budget in the fall, but we want it in the springtime. A recession is looming with a possible loss of 100,000 jobs, according to TD Bank. Already, full-time workers are using food banks in record numbers. We are seeing an increase in missed mortgage payments and a housing crisis that is developing throughout the country. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are worried, and with good reason. We need a budget this spring. When will we get a budget? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's true that Canadians need support and support that the federal government is doing. But the Conservatives voted every time against Quebec and Canadian families through the childcare benefit, through the dental care system that allowed people to save an average of $900. Thousands of people in his riding were helped. Millions were saved through dental care and childcare and affordable housing. There's a number of programs, and they should finally start voting with us to help Canadians.
For Winnipeg South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next week, Canada will host the leaders of the world's advanced economies at the G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis. This meeting comes amid rising geopolitical tension and increasing disruption to global supply chains. As global challenges intensify, the G7 must meet this moment with purpose and with force. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs share with this House Canada's priorities for this critical summer?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the member from Winnipeg South for the question. The world is facing geostrategic challenges, and Canada is ready to lead. Canada has what the world wants and the values to which the world aspires. As president of the G7, Canada will leverage our strength to seek new agreement on protecting our communities and the world, building energy security, and securing the economic partnerships of the future. The world needs more Canada, and we will deliver.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are being crushed by the housing crisis. The Liberals' own internal documents admit that housing now eats up 52% of household income. Mortgage delinquencies are at a record high. Families can't keep up, young people can't get in, and this Liberal government will not show us a plan. Mr. Speaker, a budget is a plan. And while Canadians suffer, these Liberals refuse to present a budget that will solve the housing crisis. My question is very simple. Why?
Why?
The Honourable Member of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this government is committed to taking action on housing, and that's why we've rolled out the GST break for first-time home buyers, saving them $50,000 up to $1 million purchase. That's why we've rolled out a tax break for 22 million Canadians to help them afford housing. We are taking action, and we will continue to take action at a pace that I hope the members opposite will support us on.
Excellent answer.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what we know now. We know now that Toronto and Vancouver are two of the most unaffordable cities in the world. We know that the cost to construct a residential building in Canada has increased by 58% in the last 5 years. We also know that this latest housing minister increased home building taxes by 141% while he was mayor of Vancouver. And we know that the TD Bank has declared that this government will not come close to their promise to build 500,000 new homes per year. Mr. Speaker, are the Liberals refusing to deliver a plan because they don't actually have a real one?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has been very clear about our plan for housing, the most ambitious plan for housing in Canadian history. And that is Build Canada Homes, that is moving forward on actions, concrete actions that will save people money.
That's right.
We are going to take action for multi-unit residential buildings that we hope the members opposite will support in the fall to increase rental supply. We are going to take action across the board, particularly on affordable housing, and we expect support in this House.
We do.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
The housing minister who increased building taxes by 141% the last time he had a chance should be aware that Oxford's Global Cities Index found that residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than any other city in the world. But the man in charge of housing doesn't think that's a problem. He says that housing prices shouldn't go down, period. So if he doesn't think that housing prices should go down, can he tell the residents of Toronto just how much more of their income they're going to have to spend on their homes?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got to say it's refreshing to hear the members opposite actually care about affordable housing, because they never did anything about it. That's right. That made life very difficult for mayors and premiers and housing ministers across the country that saw no support for 10 years from the members opposite in their government.
Very true.
We are taking action. We are committed to scaling up that action with Build Canada Homes and direct action in these weeks and months ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, forgive me if I'm a bit skeptical of the housing minister who increased the price of housing by 179% in just 8 years in Vancouver. They broke housing. They fueled inflation that drove up rates. They rewarded those who blocked housing construction. They supercharged immigration numbers that outpaced the availability of housing. He says we need affordable housing. Great. But then he turns around and says that home prices shouldn't go down. Both of these things cannot be true, so which one is it?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm frankly not surprised to hear the confusion on the other side of the House when you put the words affordable and housing together.
That's right.
We're taking action on it, Mr. Speaker, and though the federal government does not control the price of housing, we want to see the overall cost of housing come down. That's why we are investing in local partnerships with cities across Canada to bring the development cost charges down for housing and deliver affordability.
Honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, after a lost decade of this Liberal government, housing in Toronto is unaffordable. Last week we learned that new home sales are at a record low. Now, according to Oxford Economics, as a result of high immigration, quote, residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than the residents of nearly every other city in the world. You'd think that that would prompt the Liberals to present a serious plan. Instead, they want to break for the summer without a plan. Speaker, will the Prime Minister respect the will of this House and pass a budget before his summer vacation?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I really like to believe that all members of this House are sincere in their desire to make life better for Canadians. Hear, hear. That they want to make life more affordable, that they want to get more homes built. And that is why I really hope that the members on the opposite side of the House will join us in supporting the One Canadian Economy legislation. This will help us build more homes faster. It will bring down prices for Canadians by 15% if we can remove all trade barriers in our own country.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for York Centre.
The Minister of Housing said he doesn't want to bring down prices for Canadians. But Speaker, Toronto residents can't afford a roof over their head. When I knocked on doors this spring, voters would tell me that they can't afford their mortgage. Or in apartments, they'd say, Roman, I can't afford my rent. It's heartbreaking. Liberal immigration policies are forcing Torontonians to spend more on their income on housing than anyone else on planet Earth. But the Prime Minister is failing Canadians and refuses to listen to this House. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister deliver a budget?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, one of the policies the Prime Minister campaigned on was building modular housing. That is a way to get more homes built faster. And we know that by removing barriers to internal trade in our our country, we can get a modular housing industry going in our country. Exactly. That is one of the solutions to the housing crisis. I hope the members opposite will be constructive and support this important legislation.
Honourable member for York Durham.
Mr. Speaker, my generation refuses to live in a shipping container. Oxford Economics reports yesterday that Toronto's housing market ranks among the worst in the world for affordability. At the same time, mortgage delinquency rates in Toronto are higher than at any time during the pandemic. The financial burden is suffocating the next generation of homebuyers. And history has shown us, Mr. Speaker, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. A budget is a plan, Mr. Speaker, so my question to the Prime Minister is, when will Canadians see one?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I've traveled all across this country. It's a huge privilege of this job, and I visited families in every riding from every walk of life, and I can tell you that modular housing, which provides a housing solution for so many families, is not a shipping container. And to speak with such a demeaning tone about families that are living in a variety of different kinds of housing really indicates the kind of disrespect that the Conservative Party of Canada has for low-income Canadians and middle-income Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland Clark.
Mr. Speaker, tents are not houses.
That's right.
The Prime Minister told us during the campaign that Canada was facing the biggest crisis of our lifetime. Well, here's a crisis. In 2015, housing costs were an average of 38% of Canadian household budgets. Today, it's overwhelming. It's 52%. Wow. A recent study found that Toronto residents spend more of their income on housing than nearly every other city in the world. We were told that the Prime Minister, well, he's the man with a plan. Canadians want to see it, and time is of the essence. When are we going to get a budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, maybe the member opposite should ask himself, look in the mirror, ask his colleagues why they voted against every housing initiative we put forward over the last several years. Rapid Housing Initiative, Federal Co-Investment Fund, the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. Their own leader told them not to support the program while the MPs themselves were trying to advocate for it. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton, Witedgewanan.
Well, Housing Accelerator, $4 billion, 0 homes built. But meanwhile, housing prices have doubled, rent has doubled, down payments have doubled, and people are now defaulting on their mortgages at record rates due to the disastrous inflationary spending of this Liberal government. A federal memo confirms that housing will consume 52% of the household budget this year, up from 38% in 2015, so they know they caused this problem. When will the government table a budget with a plan to give the hope of home ownership back to young people?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, this government is taking action on delivering affordability, and we've done that with a tax cut for 22 million Canadians.
That's true.
We've done that
point.
with a cut to the GST for first-time homebuyers. We will continue to do that with actions throughout this year, and we expect the members opposite to support this. This is a new voice. Suddenly there's concern from the Conservatives who never voted for affordable housing, never supported a single initiative on affordable housing.
The Honourable Member for Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the government introduced the One Canadian Economy legislation. The bill removes federal internal trade barriers and advances national interest projects, providing a framework to strengthen the Canadian economy. Can the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade share what she's heard from Canadians about this very important bill?
Good question.
Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
How wonderful to finally get a great question. I would like to thank the member from Guelph for her hard work and for her focus on an issue I am hearing about from premiers of provinces and territories, from union leaders, from business leaders, from Canadians of all walks of life. Canadians understand that now, when our economy is being battered by tariffs from the United States, now we need to build a strong Canada by lifting all barriers to internal trade and by building big national projects. I'd like to call on all members of this House to support this essential legislation.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon University.
The Prime Minister and his anti-energy ministers say there's no pipelines in Canada without consensus. But there's no even consensus in the Prime Minister's cabinet. The Prime Minister is stacked with that cabinet with ministers that want to kill the Canadian oil and gas industry. But there's not even consensus in the Prime Minister's own head. He said he wanted to make Canada an energy superpower. But also he said, open quotes, maybe as much as half of the oil reserves, but proven oil reserves need to stay in the ground. In the Prime Minister's head, who gets a pipeline veto?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
We presented the One Canadian Economy Bill to fast-track projects of national interest and build one economy, not 13. This bill will grow the Canadian economy and support our sovereignty to ensure we build the strongest economy in the G7. Canada's new government will work with provincial, territorial, and Indigenous partners to get projects built and make Canada an energy superpower. I hope my Conservative colleagues will join us in supporting this bill.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon University.
Same old Liberals. Our allies, like Germany, are desperately needing of energy, and Canada has the energy, but due to 10 years of anti-energy policies from the Liberals, they have blocked all pipelines in Canada, and we can't sell to Germany. Now the German ambassador says they will need to import LNG from America. This Prime Minister is selling out our country by sending our jobs and our wealth to the States. Does the Prime Minister not realize that no one is building pipelines in Canada because of the Liberal anti-energy laws, or is the Prime Minister's plan all along to keep it in the ground?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Canada's new government will get projects built, create high-paying jobs, and bring greater prosperity to Canadians. That's why we presented the One Canadian Economy Bill, which will fast-track projects of national interest. If my Conservative colleagues want to get projects built, they should support the bill. And let me be clear, we will do this while respecting Indigenous rights. By working with Indigenous partners and premiers, we will build the strongest economy in the G7.
Honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskomik-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the German ambassador said yesterday that he still wants to import our natural gas. C69, C48, the production cap, the industrial carbon tax. This Liberal government is stifling our economic growth with its anti-energy measures. When will the Liberal Prime Minister finally allow Canadians to build pipelines, help our allies, and make the best of our resources by abolishing once and for all its anti-development agenda? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, we won't be learning any lessons from the Conservatives. When they were government, they were also unable to build pipelines because they didn't carry out environmental assessments, they didn't consult Indigenous peoples, so they have nothing to say. What we will do is build a strong Canada, and a Canada that will take care of the environment, and a Canada that will consult Indigenous peoples. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Midi. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Summer Jobs Programme provides young Canadians from coast to coast to coast with the opportunity to gain valuable work experience during the summer, thus allowing them to acquire and develop job skills for the future. Since 2020, this programme has helped create more than 454,000 job opportunities for young Canadians. Can the Secretary of State inform Canadians of the status of this important programme for the summer of 2025?
For youth and children and youth.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleague for Rivière-du-Midi for her important question. To build a strong economy with the best G7 workforce, our young people need to develop their skills and gain workplace experience. That is the reason for which your new government has gone even further by creating up to 6,000 additional summer jobs for young people this year, bringing the total to 76,000 jobs. I encourage young Canadians to apply for these exciting opportunities.
Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, last week dozens of skilled workers at General Dynamics Land Systems in London were laid off, leaving many London families in uncertainty. In addition, Ontario lost over 25,000 manufacturing jobs since last May alone. Canada's unemployment rate has climbed to 7%, the highest level since 2016 outside of COVID. Meanwhile, record mortgage defaults and soaring food prices are forcing even full-time workers to rely on food banks. When will the Liberals admit the harm of their policies have caused and table a budget that gets General Dynamics employees back to work?
Hear, hear.
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, we will create jobs in this country. We will invest in our manufacturing sector. We will invest in the steel and aluminum sector. And that is why the announcement that the Prime Minister did today is pivotal. It will create jobs across different industries, including at GDLS, including in his riding. And we will also make sure that we build Canada through national major projects. That's why we need to support the bill that is called One Canadian Economy. Thank you so much.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no way in God's green earth that Bill C-5 is ready for passage. Concerns and alarms have been raised by every environmental law association in Canada, by the Climate Action Group, by now the Grand Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, and the Canadian Cancer Society has pointed out that the interprovincial barriers that may come down may lead to a race to the bottom on health and environmental risks. Please, will the government redraft and reintroduce a bill that has a hope of passage?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
I'd like to thank the member for Saanich Gulf Island for her hard work and her real commitment to Canadians. I'm really glad that she raised the issue of interprovincial barriers to trade. The fact is that today we effectively impose a 7% tariff on each other. Canadians imposing a tariff on Canadians with these interprovincial barriers to trade. Now is the moment when Canadians understand we need to stop doing this. We need to knit our country more closely together. We need to build the strongest economy in the G7.
Alors, cela met fin à la période des...
This brings question period to an end. And I will allow a few minutes for members who need to leave the chamber to do so before we resume.
Emergency debate, eh? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Sienna. Okay, so if the honourable members could be timely in leaving the chamber, this will allow us to move on with with routine proceedings, which I'd like to do as soon as possible. Tabling of documents. Mon discours l'autre jour, Garneau. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Rapport de délégation.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations.
Présentation de rapport.
Presenting reports from committees.
Dépôt de.
Introduction of private members' bills.
Il n'y a pas de projet de loi émanant des députés. Première lecture de projet.
First reading of Senate public bills. There being no